got really skinny. I was only weighing 98 pounds when I went in there, and by the time I left, I was 70 pounds. I was so skinny, so small, just skin and bones. So this is part 2 of how I was diagnosed with sarcoma cancer at the age of 17 in my senior year of high school. So at this point, I now see the doctor who's going to actually do the surgery. Pretty much what happens is my body forms the cancer cells. So they're going to go in and give me surgery and scrape out whatever looks to them that can be cancerous. So I meet with the surgeon, and remember, I was already opened up one time to remove my left thyroid. I got opened up a second time for them to scrape out anything that was cancerous in my throat. So this is the second surgery. And now I'm talking to the surgeon, and he's explaining to me how they're going to cut me open, what it's going to look like. And I'm just like, how you guys supposed to cover me up? What is that going to look like? Because at the end of the day, this is my neck. Like, are you going to close me up right? The doctor's like, I'm going to do the best that I can to close you up properly. I'm going to make it look nice, because at this point, it's noticeable. It's on my neck. So that's what I was worrying about. So they tell my mom that they're going to schedule the appointment, and he's going to schedule it as soon as possible to get the cancer out. And I was just telling him, like, whatever you got to do, just scrape out whatever needs to be scraped out and just close me up nicely. Close me up nicely. I end up going through the anesthesia and everything like that. I think from what my mom told me, I was sleeping for 2 whole days. I was asleep for 2 whole days. I did not wake up. Once I woke up, they had to feed me through a feeding tube. I had a tube in my nose that was going all the way down. And this was pretty much to see if I was able to swallow. So because they did the surgery in my throat, I was not able to swallow like a regular person would. I had to get a feeding tube and have feedings through my tube. So the process was really traumatizing, because not only did they open me once to get the thyroid out, they opened me up a second time to scrape out what they thought was cancerous. I then had to meet with the surgeon again, because he said, hey, we did a scan and it looks like there's a little bit more cancer that was left behind, so we have to open you up again. So now this is the third surgery that I had to go through after starting my healing process. So then he did it again, and now this is my last surgery. I have 4 surgeries, 1 for my thyroid, 3 for the cancer. And so I told the doctor at this point I was really tired, you guys. Like, mentally I couldn't do it, physically I couldn't do it, emotionally I could not do it. And I was like, listen, sir, I don't, like, at this point I'm not really hearing what you're trying to say. I need you to scrape up as much as you can, whatever you think it is, whatever you think look like cancer, scrape it out too, because this is the last time that I'm gonna allow you guys to open me up. At this point I was fed up and I was over it. So I'm looking at my mom, and she's letting the doctor know, like, hey, my daughter is very strong-willed, and you know, she has the right to say how she feels, so do your very best and get whatever you need and get it out. I went through the 4th surgery. I believe I was in the hospital for a few months, and this is where things started to, like, overwhelm me. I'm going through the healing process, and I'm not able to talk. I had no voice at all. And so what was so crazy is, like, how I knew I was special, because I was 17 going through this. So I wasn't on a pediatric floor as a kid with anybody else, because I had such a severe diagnosis. Like, I was on the floor with adults. And so I'm ringing the call bell that's in the room. I could hear them on the microphone. I could hear them saying, hello, hello. They're not knowing that I'm in there and I have no voice. So nobody came to check on me for real. Nobody was coming down there to make sure I was good. The feedings was, like, on the clock, so the feeding tube was doing what it was supposed to do. I had my checkups with the doctors in the morning. They would check the incision, see if it's getting the proper drainage and all the things. I got really skinny. I was only weighing 98 pounds when I went in there, and by the time I left, I was 70 pounds. I was so skinny, so small, just skin and bones. I remember having a feeding tube going down my nose, just going down my nose into my throat to make sure that I was swallowing properly. That was the only way that I can go home, is if I was able to swallow food, because they wanted to send me home on solids. And so after all 4 surgeries, at this point, I am really overwhelmed, because I'm constantly ringing. No one's coming down to check on me. I wasn't able to talk until right before I was leaving, but my voice was a whisper. And so that's why now, even now, sometimes people can't hear me as much, so I have to talk a little bit louder. But that's why I get so excited when I get to share anything that God gives me to share, because I'm very passionate about who He is to me, what He has brought me through, and how He just carried me through my life even until now. Even when I pray, like, there's a certain level and a certain tone that I have when I pray. It's strong. And so I get encouraged by that, because There was a point in time where I didn't have a voice at all. There was a point in time where I was a 17-year-old girl in a hospital bed, not getting a response when I needed the help by these aides, by these CNAs, by these nurses. They're coming to me every 2 hours, every 4 hours as needed. When I was in need of something, nobody was coming to check on me. And so I know some of you are going to say, like, where was my mom? My mom was working from home. So she was coming up there and she was checking on me, but she also had to do her job. And so when she wasn't there, my sister was there. And so my sister also had a job and also had a family. So I'm communicating everything to them through text, like, hey, mommy, can you send the nurse down here because I need such and such? They're answering the phone, but no one's coming down there to check on me. They're answering the phone and telling my mom that they're coming to check on me. My mom is texting me and she's like, Anaya, they said they come in, but no one has come to check on me. So even in that, I'm just like, I'm in this room, I'm by myself. I'm supposed to, like, all I can think about is that I'm supposed to be in school. I'm supposed to be graduating. I'm supposed to be going to prom. And that's all I can ponder on for a while. But my mom, she was such an amazing mom. Like, she still is to this day. But my mom did everything she could. I kept telling her that I was worried about school, so she found a way to get me all my homework. I was going to cosmetology school. I was in a trade school while I was in high school. And so she was even able to come and get them and have them bring me my work. It was all for a purpose. And the purpose is this. There's a testimony behind what I was going through. Even when I shared my first video yesterday, I was like, God, why do I have so much fear? Why do I have so much fear in that? And so what I realized, and this is why it's so important to build a relationship with God, because it wasn't until I sat with God after I shared the video, I realized that God was showing me that I have not yet overcome a certain level of fear. And that fear is protecting myself. Protecting myself. What people don't know, they cannot attack. What people do not know, they cannot attack. So me keeping this to myself, it doesn't give people room to have pity for me. I don't want anybody to feel bad for me because of what I went through. I am almost 30, and this happened when I was 17. And even then, I didn't want anybody to know. Cancer survivor, and I go so hard for the Lord because he went so hard for me when I had no one else. That's how I started my life with Christ. I now know that God is based off of a relationship, but at the time I was praying and fasting. I was already on the feeding tube, but at one point I told him to cut the feeding tube off because I wanted to show God that I'm trusting him to get me out of that hospital. This is part 2, and I'll see you guys back for part 3. Love you. Bye.